Hello and welcome to Sassi Talks. I'm Savahna, your host, and on today's programme we have the pleasure of speaking with Sandra Berko. She is a people's coach. She specialises in developing people's inner opportunities. And she's also written a book called Sankofa. It's a collection of inspiring and insightful poems which shows us how we can take from our past and improve to have a more fulfilling future, and also tell us how we can close that gap between who we are and who we want to become. So Sandra, thank you so much for being on Sassi Talks with us today.
Thank you so much, Savahna, for having me.
When I heard that you were writing this book and having written it, I was very keen to get you involved because it has so much potential for so many people. So I want to dive straight in and get an understanding as to what brought this book about for you.
Yeah, sure. So this book came about because I needed a place where I could outlay my thoughts. It's almost a comfort of therapy, let's say, in terms of how it supported me through traumas that I've experienced from my childhood and that has carried on and seeped into my adulthood. And so throughout the years, I've often written poems to help find a way to move through those particular experiences that I have gone through. And so I was very keen to open that up and really share that with other women that have also perhaps gone through similar situations in a way to support them through those particular journeys. It also has journaling aspects to it. It includes exercise to really bring to life the how do we take those first steps towards healing and evolving as women.
So where does the title originate from, Sankofa?
Yes, so this title actually originates from where I come from, Ghana, West Africa. It's connected to the Adinkra symbol collection. And so there are over 400 collections which each have their own meaning. So with Sankofa, it talks about how to go back and get it. And that's the image of a bird looking behind and going back and get it. But what that translates to is how do we go back to our past and cherry pick those particular experiences, moments that can really help us going forward.
Is that the teaching that we can and should go back and cherry pick from our past?
Exactly that. And I think as my own individual experience, it has highlighted in writing this book, Sankofa, and also going to therapy and using mediums such as therapy to support me with my own healing journey. It really is understanding how do we connect to our past, that inner child, let's say, who has gone through traumatic experiences, and how do we gain closure? How do we say sorry for those moments? And how do we come to acceptance so that as adults, we're able to now freely move forward in the direction that we want to go and really start to live much more fulfilling lives.
I see. So how would one actually go about closing that gap between their past, who they are now, and where they want to get to?
Yeah, I think there are a few different ways you can do that. Two ways particularly I would touch on is what the transformational work looks like. So I already mentioned therapy is a great avenue. It's a great underutilized resource, I would say, specifically within Black communities, of how do we support our well-being when it comes to our mental state. If we need a doctor, if we're unwell, we know what to do. We go to a doctor. If we want to build our muscles, we go to a gym. But when it comes to our mental well-being, what's the outlet? And so therapy is a great starting point, and that helps to then close that gap, really start to nurse the inner child that we have that might be experiencing traumas that are still lingering in our current lives. And then from there, another transformational change could be getting involved with coaching, because coaching is tailored towards forward thinking, goals that you might want to have for yourself, career goals, personal goals, professional goals, business goals, whatever those might look like. How do you start to now take the steps and the milestones in order to achieve those particular goals? And so that's how you can start that journey of bridging that gap. And that's more sort of the transformational work. And I think it's so important that people recognize there isn't a quick win to this healing journey. And there are incremental elements we can do as individuals that can support that journey, but we definitely need to do the deep work in order to have that transformational change.
Now, the book talks about the inner voice, and there's so many different voices that goes on within us. We've got the voice in our heads, we've got that inner voice, we've got that voice of knowledge or past experience. And quite often people can struggle to know which voice they should be listening to, and it can be so difficult for so many people. Help us to understand the
Yeah.
difference there.
Yes, it can be very difficult because we're processing a lot of information day by day. We're wearing a lot of different hats, especially as women, the hat of a mother, a wife, a partner, a businesswoman. So there's a lot of context switching that's happening throughout our day. And so when it comes to the voices and which one to listen to, perhaps to which one shouldn't you, is asking the question, is what I'm hearing helping me or is it hindering me? And understanding that difference there. If it's helping me, uh, then that serves its purpose, that it's there to do you good. If it's hindering you, then the question is, okay, if I am saying something that is hindering me, where's the evidence that supports whatever this statement, wild statement is that we are entertaining? So whether it's the case that I've got to do a presentation on Monday morning and my inner critic is saying, you're so crap at presentation, Sandra, you will never get through that. Where's the evidence? I will challenge that and say, well, where's the evidence for that? Where have I seen that before? And if there is no evidence to support that, then there's an opportunity to reframe what you're saying in that moment and start to think about, well, what do you want to tell yourself in that moment? Okay, I do want to attempt this presentation, for example, and I know I can definitely do well because there are examples of that. So really using our past experiences to help inform how we look at our future ones, no matter what our voices are saying to us.
Now, I'm so excited to get stuck into this book. I actually have a copy of it here, Sankofa, and it is a collection of, it looks to me like a wonderful little bite-sized guide that you can use to inspire yourself on a daily basis in so many different ways. Now, there's three key themes in this book. Do you want to take us through them?
Sure. So the three key themes are heal, evolve, and unite. So healing, connecting it back to the title Sankofa about going back to your past, really talks about how important it is to do that to be able to unlock your potential. And so gaining closure from your past, any traumatic experiences encountered. Once that is done, you can now move forward to the evolve, which is the second stage. And the evolve is about what do those unlocked potentials look like? What maybe business idea do you have? What promotion are you trying to go for? What is it that you want to achieve next? And so, really believing that you have what it takes to do that and the resources and access to do that. And then the final part is the unite. It is about we can't do this in isolation. This is a collective experience of other women very much going through very similar journeys that we can all relate to. So making sure that we are connected to a community where we can exchange and share our stories and support ourselves with empowering each other and evolving as women.
Are we able to hear any of these poems? Would you be happy to recite one for us?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to recite one. So perhaps I could do one that fits within the evolve, so the second theme, and it's called Paralyzed. So I'll read through it now and more than happy to share more context as to where this particular poem came from. One day, someday, today, maybe, perhaps never. The birth of what can be seen, yet the vision remains imaginary, untouched, dormant, lifeless. Being existent is enough, only just. Gliding through this world unheard and unnoticed. Thoughts cloud your dreams, inner voices mute your choices. Decided by others how life will shape you and become your blueprint. Looking at life through another person's lens whilst you watch yourself slowly fade from within, as you deny your future self the opportunity to live. A battle between what's in front of you versus what you decide to do. If it was not then, if it is not now, then when will it be? You choose. Who, what, when, where, and how. Why? Because your life is a gift to the world. You carry not only your dreams, but the dreams of many dreamers, awaiting you to live yours so they can finally believe in theirs. No longer will you be paralyzed by your mind, restricted by resources or time, neither silenced by inadequate justifications of why you won't make it. Your insecurities tell the most convincing lies. It's time to switch off the unwanted noise inside. For the Most High gave you a purpose that only you can accomplish, to be truly fulfilled once you begin to own your choices.
Wow. Wow. I actually had goosebumps as you were reading that. That's really touching. It's a very, very touching
Thank you so much. Thank you so
poem.
much.
And one that I would imagine so many people can relate to, because they have these dreams and aspirations, but for one reason or another, they are not actualizing those. It could be out of fear, it could be out of insecurities, it could be out of worrying about what other people will think by them pursuing those dreams. Tell us the context for this for you.
Yeah, so this particular poem came about when I was in the rat race, as I like to call it, of work, working for money, paying bills, and vice versa. And I sort of hit this wall of, isn't there more to this? Isn't there more to life than this? And I was sure that there was. And so I was very keen to see, well, how do I break out of this box, and what does next even look like? And so that particular piece really speaks to that particular moment of where I recognize this is not an individual struggle. There are many that are perhaps suppressing dreams that they have and want to step out of this box. And it all comes down to the choices that we're making, day to day choices that impact the way that our world shapes and how we progress in our own career journeys, in our own life journeys as a collective. So that is where this particular piece comes from, that it boils down to what choices you make and how you own those particular choices.
I feel like it's inspired me to go, right, okay, what do we need to achieve today? I'm going to race out there and get cracking with my massive to-do list of things I've had on there for goodness knows how long. What took you to I mean, what's your own journey that's taking you to these? I mean, you have to have the inspiration from somewhere to write such powerful material.
We might make assumptions that we have this great lavish life, but behind the scenes we're hurting, and behind the scenes no one knows that that's taking place. And so we are using outlets for quick fixes that aren't necessarily going to sustain us going forward. And so we sometimes got to let go of that crutch, whatever that crutch looks like, and then really start to lean in to the healing journey that we need.
You're also doing a master's in positive psychology, right?
Yes.
Which is absolutely fantastic and exactly the kind of thing that I would love to hear more about. How does that play into your work, and what can we learn from the teachings of positive psychology?
Yeah. So positive psychology, just for those that perhaps don't understand what it is, it's really about understanding how individuals that lead fulfilling lives, what exactly are they doing to achieve such holistic, fulfilling lives. And so with that, I decided to study that so that I can take those learning into my coaching and into my people development, because we need that exposure. And so what I have taken away from it is many things, but the key things that stand out, I would say, is gratitude and what that looks like. And so one thing I often do, and I highly recommend as a tip here, is that being able at the end of your day to look back over your day and think about what three things could you be grateful for? What three things brought you joy in that moment? Because sometimes when we're having a tough day, it's hard to really pick out those moments. But if we are intentional to give 2 minutes of our time to do that, we can find those. Naturally, our minds are drawn to negative things by default. That's how we're designed as human beings. So we have to put in extra work to shift our focus onto something much more positive. So that's one thing. The other piece is around affirmations. So I know that gets thrown around a lot, but I think the impact of affirmations, especially if you're practicing it daily, and this is the incremental developments that anyone can do to kickstart their healing journey. What kind words could you be saying to yourself? What does that look like? I am beautiful, I am bold. And these are the things I had to say to myself to really start to own the skin that I'm in and really accept my beauty as a whole. And so these are a couple of things that have come up that have been so impactful in the way that I influence women in my work.
What would you say are the key takeaways for this program in terms of the things that those listening can do on a daily basis, quick wins, if you like, to get them to where they want to be?
I would say key takeaways. would be wherever you find yourself battling with that inner critic, that inner voice that isn't serving you, how to disrupt that thought is asking the question, is this helping me or is this hindering me? What would my inner mentor 20 years from now, that being you, say to yourself in that moment? Another question you can invite into that dialogue is, what would I say to my friend in this moment if she was experiencing this particular situation? That will help you start to redirect your attention onto something that will be much more serving for you. The other piece I touched on earlier, the affirmations. What's one or two affirmations you can wake up in the morning saying to yourself and go into bed with as well? Gratitude is probably my third and final. What things you can be grateful for? Three things at the end of your day. This particular experience will be one of mine for the end of my day today when I look back on how my day has gone. And I think the last sort of key message I would say, the last key message I would say is that your past doesn't define you. It can only enhance you. Sometimes we get locked into our past and we think that that's the only thing that we have, but it is a part of you, but it's not the only version of you. And we continue to evolve. As long as you continue to do the work, you will get to where you want to go.
I love it. Sandra, this is great. Thank you so much. And also for your positive mental attitude, because for those who are listening to this interview, you won't actually know that this is the second time we had to record the interview, because the first time we recorded it, we found out at the end that the record button hadn't activated and we had no material. And I was of the mindset of, forget it, let's just leave it. We'll reschedule, we'll work this out another time. And Sandra actually said, nope, let's do it now. We're going to record it now. Yeah. We've started, we're committed to it, let's get it done. Oh, yeah. And I love that, because I was ready to bolt for the door. I was like, I've had enough. Turn the lights off. We're not doing this anymore.
Throw in the towel, right?
Throw in the towel. So this is testimony that you live by your word, and it is invaluable for those watching and listening, that it's staying with that positive mental attitude. It's keeping going with an idea, and it's finding that voice inside you that's going to benefit you. And if it's not sounding like it's beneficial, or if it's criticizing you, then challenge it, look for the evidence. So that's what I take away from this, plus the book that I'm going to be diving into tonight, so I can be more like you, Sandra. So thank you so much for being on Sassi Talks and sharing those insights. We can get Sankofa on Amazon and also on Sandra's website. The details are down below.